We have a very early review for you guys of Martin Scorsese's epic Killers of the Flower Moon. We did a quick little out of the theater reaction, but there is so much to talk about. So Alonso and I are going to do that. If you've not subscribed yet, now is really the time because we are getting into it. We've got a Priscilla review coming soon, The Killer, all these big potential awards contenders are coming out in theaters in the upcoming weeks. So we'd love to have you with us. We're like this close to 25,000 subscribers. We'd love for you to be a part of that. So please join us. Thanks. Alonso, what's this film about?
I was sent down from Washington, D.C. to see about these murders.
We have so many deaths, we've lost count.
So this is an adaptation of a novel, or a book rather, by David Grann. It's a true crime story. Scorsese Goes True Crime with co-writer Eric Roth. And it is set in Oklahoma in the post-World War I era where the Osage Indians are enjoying a sudden influx of wealth because of the discovery of oil on their land. All the big companies, Phillips, have moved in to like dig wells. And so you're having this rare moment where indigenous people in this country are living large and, driving big fancy cars around and having this sort of financial power. This does not sit well with a local rancher played by Robert De Niro. He likes it when people call him king. So he has delusions of grandeur and then a sense of importance. His nephew, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, comes back from the war, and because he had a hernia, he's not able to do any heavy lifting, so he gets a job as a driver, and he winds up driving around a woman named Molly, played by the great Lily Gladstone, and the two of them become smitten, and De Niro kind of pushes him into marrying Molly because Molly's family has rights to very valuable land that De Niro would like to bring into his side of the family. We see these sort of uninvestigated, solved murders of various people from the Osage Nation. And then it starts hitting closer to home. Molly has 4 sisters, and one by one, they seem to be getting taken out. We come to understand there is a conspiracy afoot, spearheaded by De Niro's character to, try and take over this land that belongs to the Osage and to get in on the wealth that they're receiving. But these are not necessarily the most competent criminals in the world, and so there's a bit of Lufthansa job going on here where people are not listening to orders and doing the wrong thing, and then having to have that fixed by somebody else. And it is, as you say, a truly an epic. Like this is a not just in its length, it does run nearly 3.5 hours, but its scope is so vast. Even though it's very focused on a very specific kind of moment in time and geographical location, but there's so many characters, there's so many relationships and, sort of levels of genuine affection and bad faith, and everything is going on here all at once. It is a microcosm of a lot of chapters of American history, but it's also very specific to these people in this place. It is shot by Rodrigo Prieto, who just really does an extraordinary job. Like, I don't know that I've seen fire in a movie look the way that it looks in this movie. Like, there are some nighttime sequences that just blew me away. The production design by the great Jack Fisk, an extraordinary Robbie Robertson score, his final collaboration with Scorsese. The performances are really powerful. DiCaprio is playing somebody who is, we're used to seeing him play characters who are bright, either in intelligence or just in sort of presence. And this guy is very much like, he is a returning war veteran who's seen some really terrible stuff, and he's not the sharpest bulb in the chandelier. But, he really imbues this character with humanity. De Niro, grandiloquently evil in the way that only De Niro can be. And Lily Gladstone, just one of the most empathetic performers working right now. Like, you never catch her acting. She's just there in the moment and really establishes this truth of whatever it is she's playing and whatever it is that's happening to that character. This is a really amazing movie.
Yeah, top to bottom, extraordinarily well made. And among the many, many names here, we got to mention Thelma Schoonmaker, also his longtime editor, who makes this 3.5 hour long movie not feel like a 3.5 hour long movie. It feels epic and engrossing. It has this incredible narrative sweep, but also just like will take a moment to let you just look at cars parked in a field, and the weight of the tension of what's going to happen in that setting. It's really different for Scorsese in a lot of ways, technically, but then I think thematically you see a lot of the kind of like dominoes falling that you see in Goodfellas, for example. A lot of the crime dramas that he is best known for. I mean, De Niro was essentially a mob boss here in the way he is such a dominant figure and so fearsome, but also has this like magnanimity about him that makes everyone kind of fall under his spell. There's a generosity to him, or so they think. And so he is totally dominant and knows how to work that. I mean, he speaks their language.
I was going to say he's fluent in Osage and always is kind of putting on a thing about like, oh, my dear friends and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And, but don't trust him.
No, he's totally chilling. And yeah, DiCaprio so often plays characters who are commanding, who are charismatic, who are totally charming. But here he's not nearly as smart as he thinks he is. Like his brains don't match his ambitions. And that makes him really dangerous because he will do things that he thinks he can get away with. And
everything for everybody.
Totally. And he has these hungers and these desires. Like from the very beginning, he says flat out, like, I like women and I like money. And these things are going to get him in trouble.
And if I don't have to work, so much the better.
Yeah, these things are going to get him in trouble. You mentioned the main stars who are all great in it. Lily Gladstone really, really grounds this because this is a movie that is sometimes shocking in its violence. And it is it's infuriating in its injustice, and it's wild in its setting and in just the unpredictability of it. But she grounds it just by being the voice of wisdom when she does speak, and just by watching everything else,
right?
Just provides a great deal of perspective as to what is really important here and what we should really be focusing on.
And she conveys a lot of the pain of this story too.
For sure. She undergoes a lot, right? For sure. And but is always strong-willed and is always fighting, and we are always on her side. You mentioned these stars, but then like 2 hours in, we get Jesse Plemons.
Yes, always a scene stealer. He's terrific as this very straightforward. The FBI is still a new thing. No one's still quite sure who or what they are in this movie. But yeah, like several people have quoted me that line from the trailer of like, "We'll hear about the murders. What about them? Want to find out who's doing them?"
Yeah, no, he's great, and just can do it all, right? He brings an unexpected delivery quite often to his lines and makes much more of a meal out of a stoic lawman than you might see in a different kind of movie. And then just this really, really deep bench of supporting players. Like you've seen him in the trailer, like, I don't know. I guess I don't want to give it away, but there's people who are like, "Oh, he's in it. Oh, he's in it. Oh, wow.
Exactly.
Oh, that's great." And people who get like a lot to do in comparatively small roles. There's a moment here that is like something out of The Godfather. You and I were talking about it walking out of the theater when we saw it together. There's like this rich darkness and this threat to a place that should be warm and inviting and is anything but. And moments like that, Scorsese gets so much out of them. The camera work here is fascinating to me. I want to talk about that for a second because I think we associate a certain kind of filmmaking with his name, right? A certain kind of kinetic, muscular, fast-paced, like whip pans and an intensity to it. And this is like, it is that. There is a great confidence to the camera work, but it's like more elegant, like it's longer and slower and smoother and engrossing in a totally different way.
I was thinking about Giant a lot during this movie, like just the way, because you've got these huge houses that are just like surrounded by nothing but plains, and the way the camera takes it all in and sort of gives you this combination of like grandeur but also isolation, and the kind of newness of these towns that didn't exist like 5 years before, where the streets are still dirt and then it's all like kind of wood slats everywhere. I mean, it reminded me also like of what I'm sure Cimino paid much more money for in Heaven's Gate in terms of the locations and kind of telling this dark chapter in American history in a way where the people who in films of yore would have been the good guys are actually the bad guys. This calls to mind like a lot of other films that deal with the American West and that deal with kind of American tragedies, but it is so much a Scorsese movie in the tone and in the, like you said, Thelma Schoonmaker's editing, the confidence of the storytelling. I think it lands really powerfully.
It's an important story historically, emotionally. I did not know a lot about this. Some of it takes place during the Tulsa race massacre. That becomes a bit of a small subplot element here. So this is another example of like a chapter of our history that we don't learn about in school.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
And need to. And I'm happy that this film exists for that reason. And I'll say he takes a big risk on the ending. And it's very provocative and very thought provoking. And the more I think about it, the more I like it. At first, I'm like, this is really different. What are we doing here? Yeah. But I really, really like the choice of it in ways that I don't want to say right now.
I won't get into it. It totally worked for me, but I'm sure it's going to cause arguments in lobbies of movie theaters everywhere when people see it over whether or not they thought it was effective or like the right way to do it. And I've been reading a lot that he worked with a lot of advisors in the Osage Nation to really get the details right. And like if in the closing credits, there's just like screen after screen of people who were consultants and who, helped out with that kind of stuff. And so I think he's getting the details right. He asked the right questions to the right people to make sure that he was telling the story in a way that was respectful to the people that it really happened to.
And shot it in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So that too.
Because nowhere else looks like Oklahoma.
Yeah. If you can see this with amazing sound, please do. Because Robbie Robertson's score is like nothing else I've ever heard in a Scorsese film. And it like is chilling and exciting from the very first time you hear it. And it's constantly evolving. So the sound design is really great. Anyway, what's your number?
This will be coming to Apple TV Plus, but as we said in our Out of the Theater reaction, really, if you can see it in the theater, Paramount's releasing it on the 20th. This is big, muscular movie making that you want all of that screen and all of those speakers and all of that darkness to really take it all in. And if you could make it through 2 hours and 48 minutes of Taylor Swift and God knows however long Avengers Endgame was, you can do 3.5 hours for Marty. You owe him that.
Agree.
I will say a 9.5.
Okay. I'll say a 9.7. I'm up there with you.